All right. I'll trim it up a little, probably, hopefully. Welcome to this podcast. This is going to be a one-off. We don't have a name for it. We're just going to call it Lars and Ryan's Mystery Hour, except it's 15 minutes. Uh, I'm Lars. I am a member of this History 492 class, and my project is on the Loomis Fargo heist. I'm going to introduce my co-host here. Ryan, you want to say a few words?
Hi, I am Ryan. I live in Nashville. Friends with Lars.
Back up from the computer. Okay, perfect. That's great. Anything else? Do you have any background in history or true crime?
Oh, history. Where do I begin? No, but I'm a huge true crime guy.
Okay, yeah. Committing them or no, I'm just kidding. All right, so without further ado, again, this is going to be from an academic paper. So I'll ad lib a little bit, but there might be some jargon that sounds a little professional. Um, for without further ado, the Loomis Fargo heist occurring in 1997, I think year I was born. One of the last great heists in American history. Not only due to the financial magnitude, audacity, and execution, the crime is marked at the end of an era in criminal enterprise, highlighting the evolving landscape of law enforcement techniques, surveillance technology, and societal attitude towards crime. This crime also led to much more thorough security checks and better weapons for the Loomis Fargo Company. Now, in order to properly look at this crime and its effect on society, we must first meet the masterminds behind this heist. David Scott Gant, skinny redhead from Kings Mountain and a Gulf War Army veteran. He was also a husband and father, and most importantly, a trusted 28-year-old vault supervisor. Um, there's going to be a lot of quotes in here, fair warning.
Cool.
There's not much information about his life prior to the heist. He did not make a lot of money at this job. He made like 8.15 an hour. It was very he was taken advantage of a little bit. He felt like he was an underappreciated employee who had finally had enough. In an interview in 97 for CNBC's Super Heists, his wife and him were barely scraping by and two paychecks from being homeless at any time. That's a rough way to live. That's that's the Appalachian area of like North Carolina. They're the Smokies.
Yeah, plus you're a ginger. That's tough.
Yeah, you should see a picture of him too. It's not great.
Oh,
Um, Another one of the individuals in the heist was named Kelly Campbell. Also, if you see a picture of her, not great, but they had a rough life, dealt a rough hand. Um, she was a former Loomis and Fargo employee and a co-worker to David Gant. And while it was rumored that Gant had a big crush on Kelly, she's married to someone else. And I found one reporting that her husband's name was Spanky, and I couldn't find anything else besides the fact that her husband's name was Spanky. So I don't know if that's true or not, but I also,
nothing else is important about him if your name is Spanky.
yeah, I was about to say that says enough. Um, so there's not a lot of concrete evidence that there was a crush on Kelly or anything like that, but there's enough where it's looked at as she kind of took advantage of this crush. And she said, quote, wasn't attracted to him or anything, but he was a nice guy. We've all been there, you know. And she later introduced David Gant to the ringleader, Stephen Eugene Chambers. And by introduced, these two actually never met. They like they met through they would tell each other, like tell Kelly something, she'd go tell him, like they never saw each other's face. Chambers
Wait,
was
none of these people, well, Stephen Chamber, the ringleader, he
yeah,
never saw
he
Kelly
he
or
he knew Kelly. They were friends from high school, but
okay.
he actually never met David Gant before they were arrested or anything like that. Spoiler alert. Uh, Chambers, and if you see Chambers, you're like, yeah, this guy is a career criminal from North Carolina. So he was a career criminal in the area, mostly committing smaller crimes. He would write fake checks, tax fraud, and steal from convenience stores. Um, Gant was mostly looked at as a pawn, and Campbell and Chambers were looked at as like the actual ringleaders of the heist. And you'll see that reflected in their charges. Um, Oh, and also one of the best parts about this is that apparently at Loomis Fargo at the time, everyone would just joke about how they should rob the place. Like they asked around and they're like, has he said anything like that would make you think he was gonna rob the place? And everyone at the company was like, yeah, everybody says stuff. We all joke about robbing the place. It'd be stupid not to.
Um, doesn't everyone think about that about their
Yeah.
company at all
No,
times?
that's true. Yeah. If I worked at a bank, I shouldn't be allowed to work at a bank for that exact reason. Um, and yeah, it said that like when he was working there, like he became like nauseated by the smell of the green ink, especially with like, he did the
Wait,
math and
what is Loomis and Fargo?
oh, I guess I probably should have led with that. They're like the Brinks truck, the Brinks truck that is like cash delivery and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They're like cash delivery for businesses in the area, essentially.
Okay. Sick.
And yeah, probably should have led with that. That was an assumption. Um, but according to Campbell, the idea was first created by Stephen Chambers at a bonfire. They fantasized about what they would do with the money if they pulled it off, but they knew that they would need help from the inside to make this dream a reality. Um, Not an uncommon thought at the time, as I was saying, according to multiple people who worked at Loomis Fargo, they would joke about robbing the place all the time. Um, which is great. Could you imagine?
What is
We should rob this place today. Like, oh yeah, Mondays. Uh, Campbell contacted Gant and asked him if he needed any or if he would like to assist in the heist, which he responded, okay, yeah, we can do that. Campbell later stated, it's easy to get somebody to do something if you know that they are infatuated with you.
Oh, wait, she said that on record?
Quote, yep, quoted.
Oh, well,
It's
then
from
so,
Brianna
so
Steibel's Van Full of Dollars episode of Super Heist.
that's all that's
Concrete
all the
evidence.
evidence I
Yeah.
need. Yeah, that's all the concrete evidence that I
Yeah.
need. Yeah. What do you mean
Uh,
rumors that she would
Turning now to the actual orchestration of the heist, the plan relied upon Gant's access to the vault. Again, he was the vault manager at 28. Um, and Gant's ability to use one of the armored cars. According to a local crime author in Charlotte, the crime occurred as followed. Gant would go to work as normal, leave at the same time as the last employee, and return to the vault where he would load carts with bags of money before putting them into the van. From there, he'd meet Campbell, Chambers, and Grant, a friend of Chambers, in a parking lot from where they would head to an industrial warehouse and load all with 50,000 into a rental van. Gant would pocket the 50,000 to all but 50,000 into a rental van. Gant would pocket the 50,000 and head to Mexico with Campbell, where he would stay until it was safe to come back. Um, so with that plan organized and Gant's escape plan worked out, the only thing really left to do was the crime itself.
wait,
Gant
so
was,
am I getting this right that Gant does everything?
yep, literally everything. Yeah.
Literally everything. And how much was he taking?
17.3 million.
And he was gonna keep 50 grand.
The 50 grand was originally what he was taking to go to Mexico, and then they would send him more money once he got to Mexico.
Oh,
Yeah. No, he was like in all
what a fucking sucker.
I know in all the reports, all like they were like, he's not the smartest guy. And it sucks. Um at the end, you'll like kind of see like he's not the bad guy in this whatsoever. And like it
Lord. Yes.
um So again, he was known for being a reliable employee and was not immediately on board and actually stated in an interview that on the morning of the heist, uh, he Take the Money and Run was playing by the Steve Miller Band. And that's like part of the reason why he decided to do it. And I'm like, imagine the Steve Miller Band being like
I
tried,
get it.
accomplished.
Now I get it. I sympathize with this guy, Steve
Yeah,
Miller
no,
Band. Yeah, you got me
exactly.
going.
Yeah. If Steve Miller Band tells you to do something. Gant was a supervisor, so he was able to send his coworkers home early and pretend to leave himself to ensure he'd have the be the only one in the building. He was alone, or once Gant was alone and the vault was opened, David proceeded to load 2,800 pounds of cash into the Loomis Fargo work van. Gant said, quote, I made a joke once that the hardest I'd ever worked for Wells Fargo, or that's the hardest I've ever worked for Wells Fargo. Yeah, it's a lot of work. Gant also stated, parentheses, as soon as you start, you realize there's no going back. You violated that trust. You might as well go all the way now. I don't I don't know if that's exactly true. Like I think your punishment would be a lot less. I feel like if you stopped like halfway through, put it all
No,
back.
dude. No, I'm totally on board with him.
I
Like
mean, I guess like
you've already like
Pandora's
you've already
box.
lost your job, like,
Yeah,
and everything. Like,
uh,
and you could still go to jail, like, for sure.
that's true. So yeah, you might as well leave a millionaire. Or I guess
Yeah.
$50,000. And he wasn't even able to take all $50,000 with him because he couldn't like fit it on him. So he was only able to take 25,000 with him. Um, So, after what seemed like hours of loading, Gant finally finished up and was looking at slightly over $17 million in cash. He then went to the manager's office to remove the security tapes and essentially get rid of any concrete evidence left behind. This part is like where you kind of like are like, oh, this guy doesn't not all there. Unfortunately, he's the manager, keep in mind. He forgot or did not know about the third tape, which clearly shows him robbing the vault. However, it didn't come out till a day or two later, and by then the money had successfully been handed over to Campbell and Chambers while Gant made his way to the Columbia airport with the $50,000 in hand. Um, yeah, he went to the Columbia airport, which is unfortunate because they don't offer flights to Mexico, naturally.
Wait,
Uh,
wait, where is this taking place?
taking place in North Carolina, like Kings Canyon, I want to say, not Kings
Oh,
Canyon.
oh, so
Kings Mountain.
he got a flight straight to Colombia, not to Mexico.
No, he drove to the Columbia airport and then they got there, realized that Columbia does not service flights to uh Mexico and that
Columbia, South Carolina.
yeah,
Thank you.
yes. Yeah.
Okay, I've got Colombia in my brain.
Yeah. Oh no, no, no. Go Gamecocks.
Yeah, go Cops.
Um and Ryan is a graduate of the University of South Carolina, must say. Um so that they didn't even call, they didn't check anything. They just went to the airport assuming that there'd be a flight to Mexico. So there wasn't, and he had to end up taking a
Oh my
bus
God.
to Atlanta and then a flight from Atlanta to Mexico. Um, in the meantime, Chambers had two of his friends collect the money from the van and place it in three 55-gallon drums and deliver it to the Chambers home. And by home, I mean their trailer. Um, not only were they unprepared for Gant's getaway, but they were also unprepared for the sheer amount of space $17 million in cash took up. Um, Not doing Gant any favors, they left $3.3 million and two security tapes in the van unattended. Um, the $3.3 million thing, it was all in ones and fives, and they literally were like, "Oh, just leave it. It like can't be that much." And yeah, it came out later. It was 3.3, which is
Oh
nuts.
my God.
Um, so while this is all occurring, David Gant's wife, Tammy, called the Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department at 7:15 on Sunday morning. She said that her husband had not come home from work yet. She was starting to worry. They sent the Charlotte Mecklenburg police sent a car over to the warehouse, and they found that Gant's truck was still parked out front, and that the front gate and the door to the warehouse were unlocked. So he called for backup, and not long after, Loomis Fargo rep and an FBI agent, since Loomis Fargo is a federally insured bank, arrived at the scene. They discovered all the keys to be missing, and David Gant was nowhere to be found. Um, they proceeded to check the tapes, and they found the third one, where it clearly shows like there's literally images online that you can find that where it shows David Gant just loading the money into a bag and putting it in the back of the van. Um, let's see here. So once the FBI agent and the Loomis Fargo rep arrived, they drilled into the bank, found it empty. They inspected Gant's car and found his wedding ring in the ashtray. So at this point, they've kind of like ruled out like he's being forced at gunpoint, you know.
Yeah.
And after an entire weekend, the FBI had scraped together basically nothing new. They knew that David Gant loaded the van with cash, left his shift on the 4th.